pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Nima, Simmerhomp, Simu, Istrima, Trema, Nima, Imahomp, Sweet, Nima, Kiku, Kimuwama, Sweet, please. Sit down, children. As he sat down on Catherine's desk rather than his own, the crystalline water singing in Reese's head the entire weekend froze once more, and it crunched and ground in his ears as each molecule assumed its solid state, and then he suddenly felt the small fingers of Kiki's hand on the back of his neck, ghostly, cold, and lifeless, but definitely cliquey. Nima, Simmerhomp, Spingalese, Trema, Nima, Imahom, Sweet, Nima, Kiki, Kimawama, Sweet, please. He needed Kiki to understand they couldn't play right now. It was time for spelling. They always started with spelling. Kiki needed to stop. Miss Patty would get mad, and he knew Miss Taylor would be mad too. And then it happened, and he couldn't stop it. Suddenly, Tammy Franklin screamed, not just a shout, but an intense, deeply felt cry of fear that set everything in motion. As Tammy pulled frantically at her hair, every heartbeat in the room pounded and pounded, and Reese chanted louder and faster, trying to get Kiki to understand they had to do spelling. But before the last breath sustaining Tammy Franklin's scream escaped her lungs, and the last strands of her hair straightened to their fullest length against the pull of her fingers. At the very instant every heartbeat in the room aligned, he couldn't stop the very next thing from happening either. Reese watched the sparks hover in the air and then drop, a split-second image most missed in the blink of an eye, but which Reese intuitively understood in every detail. The drifting glass suspended in air, falling and twisting, and Kiki's cold fingers slipping down from the longest follicle at the back of his neck. The glass clinking to the floor, the second ballast at the back of the room, exploding now, more glass falling and clinking, and the collective heartbeats quickening, pounding, even harder, and the glass hitting the ground now and grinding furiously against the carpet, and the lights flickering to black, and then Kiki screamed in his ears, and he finally understood. Kabama. He had to find the Christmas card. It was the only way to find Catherine. And then the water faucet at the side of the room cracked, and cold, icy water sprayed the entire classroom and all his friends, and Miss Taylor and Miss Patty and the butterfly terrarium and the map of Virginia at the far wall, with the big red thumbtack piercing the dot in the farthest left corner that was Big Stone Gate. All of it dripping and dripping suddenly with gushes of ice-cold water. Reese, you're bleeding. And inside the classroom now abandoned, Patty finally reached Reese, and the crutches fell to the ground against the glass shards as she grabbed him by the shoulders. What the hell?
Carmen arrived at the search site. Despite the dozens of colored flags strewn across the landscape and a heap of stuff still left behind at the shelter that frightened her, everything was quiet and peaceful otherwise. The sun sparkled through the trees, and the last of the melting snow dripped from the branches. She heard blue jays and cardinals and other birds she didn't know call to one another as they scavenged for food. And for the first time since discovering her sister missing, Carmen suddenly felt alive. She took a deep breath and scanned the trees around her. Where did you go, Catherine? There was no clear answer. Her sister could be anywhere. She could be nowhere. Carmen waited for a heartfelt, innate sense of purpose to guide her. She knew she was being silly, she knew it, but she wanted some spiritual sense of connection to her sister to envelop her and guide her steps. But there were only birds and snowdrifts and a few rustling leaves, no spirit guides. So Carmen walked randomly into the woods and soon found herself a few hundred yards from the shelter before she realized it was all just ridiculous. and she'd just get hopelessly lost if she weren't careful. Discouraged, she fell against a large maple tree with her back against the trunk and her legs spread down the hill in front of her. She rested her head against the tree and closed her eyes and breathed in the cool air around her deeply into her lungs. The sun shone against her face, and there was an odd dichotomy between the warmth of the sun and the biting coolness of the surrounding air. The ground underneath was damp, and the earthy perfume of the dark soil and rotting leaves, her favorite smell in all the world, overtook her senses. She beckoned the light breeze caressing her body to take with it the deep sadness that penetrated her soul. And then she heard the voice of her sister, a sound she had never heard at any moment in her life, but which instinctively she knew in that moment was Catherine. I was never out here, and it's not your fault. Carmen jumped to her feet and turned in every direction, desperate for any sight of her sister. But there was nothing but birds and sunlight and musty leaves and black dirt. And so the surviving sister of Catherine King, treasurer of the Powell Valley football cheerleading squad and girlfriend of Bo Parker, fell to the ground by the maple tree on her side this time and clutched her knees and cried, and she cried and cried and cried and cried, trying to force the very last tears out of her body. She loved her sister dearly, and her heart had almost shattered, knowing she would never see her sister again, but she needed the tears to exit her body for the last time so she could begin living again.
Okay, Bo, just relax and answer honestly. You were 17 years old, is that correct, son? I turned 18 at the end of February, and you are a senior at Powell Valley High School, is that correct? Yes, sir. Now, I'm going to start with the most important question of all, Mr. Parker, and I need your absolute honesty on this. Are the Powell Valley Vikings going to win state this year? Yes, sir. Bo, you drive a new F-250 Ford pickup truck with four-wheel drive. Yes, sir. It's a nice vehicle, son. Thank you. And you date Carmen King, is that correct? Yes, sir. And you met her on Thursday evening? Yes, sir. We met behind the hospital and she picked me up. Did you go directly to her house? No, we went through the McDonald's drive-thru first. And you arrived at the King's house a little after midnight. Yeah, sometime about then. You're doing fine, Bo. Was Catherine asleep the entire time you were at the King's house? Yes, sir. Did you give her medicine that night, Bo? No, sir. And I didn't even know where the medicine bottle was kept. So when you left the King's house that night, you didn't have Catherine's clonidine bottle with you? No, sir. And you did not at any point place the pill bottle in her locker? No, sir. Bo, I'm going to ask you now about the contents of the bottle. Please tell me if you're aware of any of the following pills being kept in the bottle. Just answer yes or no. Okay. Bo, would you be able to confirm that the bottle indeed contained pills of clonidine? I guess it had clonidine in it, but I never saw the bottle, so how could I know for sure? Can you confirm, Bo, that the bottle contained clonidine? Oh, no. Would you have any knowledge as to whether the bottle contained aspirin or not? No, I have no way of knowing that. Ibuprofen? I haven't a clue. I mean, no. Prozac? Jesus, Catherine was on Prozac. Just answer yes or no, son. Well, then, no. What about Lipitor? My old man's drug? That would be a no. Rohypnol? I don't even know what that is, so that would also be a no. Viagra? Oh, seriously, you're kidding, right? Just yes or no, Mr. Parker? No. Do you have any knowledge where Catherine King might be right now? I wish I did. Maybe yes or no, Bo? No. That's it. That's it. The smell of roasting turkey permeated each room of Margie King's little brick house. Nancy Daniels was in her element. Between the stuffing, the cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, pecan pie, and the rest, she had worked nearly 5 hours nonstop on the Thanksgiving meal. By 1:30 p.m., the three sat down before a feast sufficient to feed them till Christmas. Ben offered the blessing, a generic prayer of gratitude for good food and the hands preparing it that made no mention of Catherine or gave any clue to the terrible tragedy they had suffered. Margie didn't even close her eyes through the prayer, but stared blankly instead into the yellowness of a bowl of steamed squash. Had the moment not hearkened to memories of childhood's past, Nancy Daniels probably would have realized the ridiculousness of what she then proposed. With all good intention and true love for her family, she lifted her glass of sweetened iced tea and suggested a toast, a phrase her own father always said at Thanksgiving, words Margie and Ben heard annually through Margie's childhood. For the thankfulness of family, good health, and the prosperity that provides this meal. And for Margie King, it was the very last straw. And here's to the absolute shittiness of my life, to a shitty marriage, to an abusive alcoholic that ruined the best years of my life, and to a shitty job at Walmart that barely allows me to afford this shitty house in a shitty town and lets me work nights so my whore of a daughter has the house to herself so she can fuck her boyfriend and let him kill Catherine. And for that, I am truly thankful. What the fuck is wrong with you, Margie? Ben turned to Nancy as Margie's car screeched away. His wife sat perfectly still at the head of the table. She did not cry. She showed no emotion, in fact. The sweet tea simply dripped from her cheeks. Nancy rose, dabbed her face with one of the linen napkins ironed for the occasion. We're leaving. They would not eat the meal. They would simply leave it. They were simply leaving. They got their stuff, packed the car, and simply left. That year, Ben and Nancy Daniels ate their Thanksgiving meal at the Cracker Barrel on their way back to Christiansburg, and they never spoke to their daughter, Margie King, ever again.